Smitch and Smutz, the Chimney Sweeps by Nanny Linda. Oswald Smitch and Theodopolis Smutz lived and worked in the land of Bungledown, which was a quirky and very unusual, odd-shaped little town. They had worked together for a very long time, both of their puppies being chimney sweeps too. In fact, Smitch and Smutz had always been the sweepers of all chimneys, stovepipes, stacks and flue. They had all the brushes in all shapes and sizes, with all the extension poles and rods, and had shovels, dustpans and a vacuum, and other bits and bobs. They cleaned chimneys tall and chimneys short, and chimneys with a quirky bend. And there was never ever a job too hard for these happy chimney sweep men. They cleaned all of the chimneys in the whole of the town, from one end to the other. And then it was time to start all over again, and the first house was always Oswald's mother. Every night after a full day's work, they both went home for a relaxing hot shower. Always covered in so much soot and grime, they were usually scrubbing for well over an hour. Sometimes at work they would have problems with a chimney that was an awkward shape, where the soot had caused a firm blockage, which the brushes and poles just would not break. So little Theodopolis would climb up through to give it a kick, or sometimes had to take a hammer and sometimes his wooden-handled pick. One time when it was stormy and the winds were howling over Bungledown, the brush had been caught by the gusty wind and it pulled Oswald right off the ground, and he nearly got pulled up the chimney, but Theodopolis grabbed onto his foot, which saved him from disappearing into a vast dark space full of soot. Over the years they had experienced many mishaps, but also plenty of laughter too, like the time they had both got their brushes stuck in a sticky, mucky flue, which had not been cleaned for many years, as Ginger Jim Johnson would not pay as he was so tight and mean. But when he realised his fire would not light, he decided it needed a clean. Oswald started with the toughest brush until it became stuck and wouldn't budge. So Theodopolis decided to lean down into the flue to give it a weighty nudge. Oswald climbed up and pushed and shoved, but nothing would clear the blocked flue. He'd got himself wedged in the greasy sludge and wasn't sure what else to do. Theodopolis carried on plunging until there was a scream and a thud and a choking cloud of black, as Oswald was struck with down-falling brushes and poles, and he shouted and frightened Ginger Jim's cat, who squealed and clawed, then jumped 6 feet in the air, hissing as it tried to escape, and Ginger Jim's house was covered in soot. It was certainly an expensive mistake. Smitch and Smutz had a soot pile, which they kept on some land that they owned, and the Bungledown folks spread it on their gardens as good fertilizer to help plants and veg to be grown. One night there was a robbery at Stickley's glue factory in the nearby town of Gumtackeymoor, and the robbers had used some dynamite to blast open the large iron safe door. Brothers Chalky and Rocky had overestimated the amount of dynamite required, and glue exploded into the air and covered both of the robbers from head to toe, the stupid sticky pair. They took off running as fast as they could, but left sticky tracks all over the floor. Trudging through the sticky debris, then Rocky got his hand stuck to the door. Chalky tried to help him by hugging his waist and tugging and pulling hard, which freed poor Rocky eventually, leaving behind a palm print of skin, and his hand felt raw and charred. They finally reached the tree line and hid, Rocky holding his hand and crying all the while, and watched the police cars come racing onto the scene through the burning glue smoke, which smelt vile. Then the officers got out and looked around, and their feet got stuck to the ground, so they all hopped back into their police cars, leaving their shoes and boots all dotted around. Chalky and Rocky kept an arm's length apart, not wanting to get stuck to each other. No one had ever gotten that close to them anyways, not even their father or mother. They then headed over Gumtackeymoor towards Bungledown, hoping to recover and hide, both of them feeling stressed out and tired, and both with a robber's injured pride. They eventually tumbled down from Gumtackeymoor, tripping and falling in the dark night, and both fell into the Smitch and Smutz soot pile, which gave them both a choking fright. The sirens of more police cars was echoing through the air, and both of the robbers lay quite still in their soft black sooty lair. Thinking that they had escaped the law, they laughed, got up and went on their way, hoping to evade capture, to live and rob another day. As morning came and the robbers walked through Bungledown with a stupid, arrogant air, they didn't realise that they were covered in so much glue and soot on their clothes and in their hair. They both looked quite spectacular, all black, showing just the whites of their eyes. That they soon ended up in handcuffs shouldn't have been a surprise. The next day, in the local paper, the headlines were in bold black print. Stickley's glue factory at Gumtackeymoor blown up by the brothers Chalky and Rocky Flint. The story then developed and included the tale of the big soot pile, so Smitch and Smutz had some advertising for their business, which travelled for many a mile. In fact, Smitch and Smutz, the chimney sweeps, had to take on some extra help, as their business increased to other towns around, including Stumple Skiddy, Tilly Tumptown and Puddle Whelp. But all the publicity didn't change them, although they advertised for hiring more sweeps, until Oswald's son Mitch decided to join them, and also Theodopolis' daughter Monique. And as far as I know, Smitch and Smutz, the chimney sweeps, are still in business to this day, and still clogging the drains at shower time in their own unique sooty way.